Hey everybody, this is our second day of proofs. You guys have a test this Friday on proofs. I know you love it. So we'll do three of them here, and then you have some proofs for your homework. Imagine that. Don't forget all your lessons can be found at that groovy website. All right, let's start with our first proof. Okay, so it says given A is parallel to B, line A. Here's line A, line B is parallel right there, and also line C is parallel to line D. Okay, given that, we're going to prove that angle 1, which is right here, is congruent to angle 13. So there's several ways to do it. I think I'm going to do corresponding angles, I don't know. But since we have parallel lines, we have all kinds of corresponding angles equal, alternate interior angles equal, alternate exterior angles equal. Okay, so let's load all this in. So this is all given to us, and we just got to fill in everything. Okay, so this was the given information. Okay, that's easy enough. That's usually your first step. It's not always, but almost always is. Okay, and then let's look at angle 1 and 12. Okay, so angle 1 and 12, these guys are alternating on this transversal right here. This transversal, one's on one side, one's on the alternate side, and they're outside these two parallel lines. Okay, so they're exterior. So these are alternate exterior angles are congruent. Given that the lines are parallel, those alternate exterior angles are congruent. Okay, now this says 12 is congruent to 13. What kind of angles are 12 and 13? Now I forgot to do parallel lines, darn it. Anyways, I should have showed arrows. I did on the other ones, one arrow, and then maybe two arrows and two arrows, just to show the lines are parallel. I'll show you that in the next one here. Anyway, so 12 and 13, these guys are also alternating on this transversal, but they're inside, they're interior of these two parallel lines. So these are alternate interior angles. They are congruent, okay? And then check this out, you guys. Whoops, oh, I didn't want to show that yet. Let's back up here. Sorry, my finger got a little touchy there. Okay, so this is a transitive property because we have 1 is congruent to 12, and 12 picks up. Remember, transitive is the second part of this congruency is the first part of this congruency. So if 1 is congruent to 12 and 12 is congruent to 13, then we can say 1 is congruent to 13 right there by the transitive property, okay? All right, now I know you guys are thinking, I don't know how to do this, but if you're kind of nodding your head and thinking, yeah, I think I get that, I can do that again, maybe. I think your teacher would be pleased. I would be. All right, so here we go. We have another one. So it says G is parallel to H. Okay, so here's G and here's H right here. G is parallel to H. And then also that's given, 1 is congruent to 5. So I think we are set up to do this all by ourselves. So so we're starting to wean you off on some of these to do them by yourself. Some of your stuff will have all the statements over here, and then some of them won't. So I think your first 3 has all these statements on here, and then after that it's not. Okay, so this is one that doesn't have everything given to us. Okay, so we have parallel lines. Okay, right there, that's given information. Notice I didn't put this given down yet. I will in just a second. You can put it right there if you want, but I want you to see what I'm going to use with these parallel lines. Okay, so parallel lines. Now we want to get to 5 is congruent to 3. So here's 5 and 3 right there. Now this given, I know 1 is going to be congruent to 5 right there. Well, so what I'm going to say is from these parallel lines cut by this transversal, these angles are equal. Do you remember? Or congruent, equal, congruent, interchangeable. Do you remember the names of these angles right here? Just think if I slid this line right down on top of this line, and angle 1 would slide right down on angle 3. Those are called corresponding angles. So if lines are parallel, then corresponding angles are congruent. So if we have these lines parallel, then these corresponding angles are congruent. So are 2 and 4. We could have said 2 and 4, but notice we want to get 1 into the picture, so that's why I said 1 is congruent to 3 right there. We could have said 2 is congruent to 4. Okay, now we cannot say, well, we can because it's given right here. 1 is congruent to 5. Let's go ahead and do that right there. So that's given right there. That's given information. All right, now, so I should have marked it right there. I should have put the little angle mark right over here because 1 is congruent to 5 from the second given right there. Okay, so 1 is congruent to 5. Let me go back. Oh, we're good. Okay. So since 1 is congruent to 3 and 1 is congruent to 5, okay, this one is not a transitive because 3 does not pick up with the first part right here. But I can interchange the, since 1 is congruent to 3 and since 1 is congruent to 5, what I'm going to do is substitute this 5 right in here for this 1 right here. See how I can substitute 5 in for that 1 because 1 is congruent to 5, so let's put the 5 in right there. So 5 is congruent to 3, so that is the substitution property. Okay, whoops, I clicked on too many up there. Okay, so the substitution property. All right. Okay, so this one here, you guys, is another one that we have to fill in. So here we go. So given that G is parallel to H, so we'll put some parallel symbols there. And angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. We're going to use that information to prove that P is parallel to R right there. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and do the first given. So those angles those lines are parallel right there, and I put arrows on them to show that they're parallel. Okay, now let's see, now since I have these parallel lines, and we'll go cut by this transversal, makes these angles, corresponding angles, congruent. So 1 is congruent to angle 3 because corresponding angles are congruent right there. All right, now let's throw the next given down right there. So the next given is 1 is congruent to 2. That was given right there. Okay, so is this a transitive? 1 is congruent to 3. 1 is congruent to 2? No, it's not, but I'm going to say 1 is congruent to 2 right there by the substitution property. Actually, I said I've substituted in 3 right there. 3 is congruent to 2. I wasn't even thinking right there. Okay, so these angles are congruent. What kind of angles are these guys called? They're alternating on this transversal right here, and they're outside, so they're exterior. They're alternate exterior angles right there. Oh, sorry, right here. Let's go back. So this was this is a substitution property. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself right there. And then now I can say that these lines are parallel because their alternate exterior angles are congruent right there. Okay, so these lines end up being parallel because these alternate exterior angles are congruent. All right. All right. If you guys are in our class, I think at least in my class and another teacher's class, you're going to be given a stapled worksheet right there. Okay, hope that makes sense. Take care.